Hi everyone, my name is Nelisa Cata and it is my pleasure to be taking you through day 192 of our Bible reading plan. How crazy that we are at day 192 already. Man, the time has gone by so fast. These sessions are incredible, so enriching and so edifying. I encourage all of you to join in on the fun. The way in which you appreciate scripture and the wisdom therein will just never be the same. Cool. So as part of day 192, and hot on the agenda are Psalms 140 all the way to Psalm 145. I am going to be sharing a few tidbits and a few highlights from each psalm, but really zoning in on that Psalm 143 as my favorite, and then I'm going to leave you alone. So starting off with Psalm 140, we see this as a cry, but not only that, as an affirmation of confidence coming from David's slandered soul. We see how the psalmist is praying not only for deliverance, but for preservation, which will come from God. And in true David style, we also see how he prays for justice with regard to his enemies and their wickedness. Psalm 141 is a lot more tender. We see here David asking for God to actually deal with his own conscience, right? And the wickedness and evil contained therein. I love this about David because it shows that even though he wants God to deal with his enemies and their wickedness, he is so aware and so conscious of the wickedness that may reside in him, and he asks for God to deal with that. Incredibly special. Psalm 142, from this we get two running themes. We see a note of really terrible helplessness coming from the psalmist there, but we also see his beautiful determination in seeking out the hand and the help of God. Psalm 143 is yet another cry to God in a time of crisis by David, but it is unique because it is counted amongst the 7 penitential psalms, which is a collection of psalms that are songs of confession and songs of humility delivered before God. But more on Psalm 143 in a little bit. Psalm 144, this psalm is believed to have been written close to the time where David was to be recognized as king over all the nations of Israel. And it really is just an expression of David's heart for the nation in both times of war and in times of peace. Psalm 145, which is the last of our selection today, is actually the only psalm to be called a praise of David instead of a prayer of David. And really, it is monumental in stature. It is such big praise. It serves as an apt summary of what David has learned over his entire life of following and really seeking after God. So I said I would zone in on Psalm 143 for today as my favorite, and I'd actually like to read it, if you will allow. So, from the New King James Version, Psalm 143, an earnest appeal for guidance and deliverance, a Psalm of David. Hear my prayer, O Lord, give ear to my supplications. In your faithfulness answer me, and in your righteousness do not enter into judgment with your servant, for in your sight no one living is righteous. For the enemy has persecuted my soul, he has crushed my life to the ground. He has made me dwell in darkness like those who have long been dead. Therefore my spirit is overwhelmed within me, my heart within me is distressed. I remember the days of old, I meditate on all your words. I muse on the work of your hands. I spread out my hands to you. My soul longs for you like a thirsty land. Answer me speedily, O Lord. My spirit fails. Do not hide your face from me, lest I be like those who go down into the pit. Cause me to hear your loving kindness in the morning, for in you do I trust. Cause me to know the way in which I should walk, for I lift up my soul to you. Deliver me, O Lord, from my enemies. In you I take shelter. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. Your spirit is good. Lead me in the land of uprightness. Revive me, O Lord, for your name's sake. For your righteousness' sake, bring my soul out of trouble. In your mercy, cut off my enemies and destroy all those who afflict my soul, for I am your servant. So In the first two verses, we see in the first instance that this is David's plea for help from God. There is a sincerity and an earnestness that we cannot miss, and we cannot help but fall in love with in this application. It kind of paints the picture that David is really making a real plea to a real God who can actually be asked to heal, to answer, and to save. David appeals to the faithfulness and the righteousness of God in his request, but also recognizes that if God were to deal with him only on the basis of righteousness, judgment might befall him. And so he takes it a step further by appealing to God to deal with him from a place of mercy. Verses 3 to 4 paint a really powerful picture of deep sorrow and deep misery, especially when the psalmist says, "Therefore my spirit is overwhelmed within me." And this level of deep sorrow can be likened to that of Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, where in Matthew 26:38 he says, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death." Now, the rest of the psalm really shows how David's soul ache, right? So he seems to express something that's a lot deeper than just heartache or sadness, but real soul ache. The psalm shows that his soul ache wasn't enough to drive him away from God. I especially love how he calls on God to teach him how he should be experiencing some of his calamity, how he should be thinking about his personal circumstances, and how he should be thinking about the state of his soul, and he almost establishes that it is only appropriate that God be the one to teach him all these lessons. So much can be said about these psalms, and so much can be said about this man David. So incredible and such an inspiration to our generation. I especially loved how mindful he was all the time of the state of his soul, and before asking God to go and deal with the wickedness of his enemies, he always asked for God to deal with the wickedness inside of him. With that, I will wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you and keep you. See you soon.